Martin Popoff here, back again for another episode of The Contrarians. This is another one of our solo shows. We've been thinking of ways to get more shows out, and one of the ideas that Nick came up with was to do more solo shows. You're used to seeing Marco and Nick together, or me and Marco, or Nick and me, or whatever. In doing this back and forth, you know, on the two sort of dualities of the Contrarians, which is, here's the concept of the show. The idea of this show is that one of the three of us has a band where we feel strongly that the best album that they ever made, or our favorite album, it's debatable whether it's favorite or best or whatever, but we champion a choice for greatest album by a band, which is not the standard choice, hence the name of the show, The Contrarians. And obviously we've started an offshoot show called Worst Album as well, where we talk about the worst album by a band. But this is a standard show in every way, except it's a solo show. It's just me doing this one. And so we're going to do all the steps. I'm going to tell you my favorite album by this band, and the sober choice, the choice that would be normal or less surprising. But with this band, I would say there's a little bit of debate what the best would be, but the one I'm going to pick rarely comes up, which is really odd because, you know, forever and a day, it's always been my favorite Judas Priest album. Oh, did I say the name of the band? Judas Priest. So we're going to be doing Judas Priest today. So yeah, just a quick history of Judas Priest. Obviously, this is one of the greatest heavy metal bands of all time. They started around 1969. A lot of lineup changes leading up, just like Rush, same sort of thing, 69 through to 74 for the first album, just like Rush. Judas Priest's first album was Rock-a-Rolla. Then they came with an absolutely incendiary classic of all time called Sad Wings of Destiny in 1976, which really kind of changed everything. It was the first big Richter blip metal improvement, I think, since the very early days of metal, 1970, with Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and Heap. So classic album. Slowly made their way up, did not reach a lot of fame through these genius albums that they made until they got to British Steel, 1980. It was the new wave of British heavy metal. They kind of simplified their sound. They got a new drummer in Dave Holland, who was more of a four on the floor, you know, get out of the way so the great twin guitars of Glenn Tipton and KK Downing can do their thing. Obviously, the lead vocalist, super important guy in this band, Rob Halford, with the high operatic vocals, the massive range, very thespian sounding, Ian Hill holding down the bass. But yeah, then they became one of the big bands of the MTV era of metal with Screaming for Vengeance and Defenders of the Faith. They did kind of a hair metal-y experiment with Turbo. Still a big album, still went platinum. And then, you know, a bit of a decline, came back a little bit with Painkiller, then just like Iron Maiden, so now they're a lot like Iron Maiden, went through the 90s with all this drama around changing the vocalist. And then Rob Halford eventually came back. They never really recovered the fame that they ever had. You know, here's where things diverge with Maiden, because Maiden just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, at least in terms of ticket sales and the size of venues they would play. Judas Priest, still a pretty big headlining act everywhere they went, but you know, not really. It's not 17,000 people every time like a full hockey barn in an A-level city or whatever. But made lots of records, lots of good music. They've been pretty prolific, a few lineup changes here and there, but you know, the Priest is still with us. The Firepower record, very well regarded record. So an amazing band. I love them. Of course, I did a book back in 2007, long out of print, called Heavy Metal Painkillers, full color throughout. That was replaced by these two. Decade of Domination, which goes up to 1984, and Turbo till now. This one is now out of print. It has been for a long time. I don't know if it's ever coming back. This, I still have copies. You can go to martinpopoff.com. I still have copies of A Decade of Domination. So yeah, that's the band we're doing. And to move on, what is my contrarian choice of favorite Judas Priest album? Like I say, this is a no-brainer for me. It has always been this way for years and years and years. It is this one, Hellbent for Leather. And maybe even more so the UK version that came out a few months earlier, so 1978, late 78, for Killing Machine is what they called it there. And this up here, the Hellbent for Leather, that said Killing Machine, it was in red on the UK version. and ours. So it was changed over in North America to Hellbent for Leather. Love this band picture. Rob Halford doesn't even look like him. I always say he kind of looks like a drunken pirate here. Great band shots of the band there. Les Binks on drums. He was a short-lived guy. KK and Glenn there, and then Ian down at the bottom. Love that back cover. Just killer front cover as well. But yeah, the other big difference between Killing Machine and Hellbent for Leather is for Hellbent for Leather, they added the heavy metal cover of the Green Manalishi with the two-pronged crown written by the old Fleetwood Mac. That's the only difference. That song was not on the other one. It was not replaced by any other song at that time. And then, of course, the title change. So why is this my favorite Judas Priest album? I always call this a cusp album, where a band is right in the middle of bringing forward everything they did amazing just previously, and then something new that's transitioning them into, this new sort of band. British Steel to me always felt like a bit of a dumbing down. I remember as kids, I would have been 17 at that point, really ticked off at that album, finding it way too simple and dumbed down. I always call it their Kiss album, right? So this to me is a little bit like Animal Magnetism and Love Drive. A transitory, a little bit of foot in the old, obscure, slightly proggier sound, and then moving into a commercial sound. And I've always said that Priest and Queen are the only two bands I could think of that have this you could objectively call it run of genius of records that were ever made across any genres. And for Priest, it goes from Sad Wings through to this one here. Sin After Sin, right? It's my little frame thing. I put these in frames. Through Stained Class, and it ends with Hellbent for Leather, and I think Hellbent for Leather is the best one. Again, why do I love this record so much? I find it's got a little bit of commerciality to it, but it's got heft. It's got a good, aggressive, heavy production sound, which the previous two albums were very thin, Stained Class and Sin After Sin. It's got some of my favorite Priest songs of all time on here, and they aren't even super, super popular ones. Delivering the Goods, Rock Forever, Running Wild, and Burning Up. I would on any day of the week put those 4 songs, and Hellbent for Leather, I would put those 5 songs in probably my top 15 or 18 Priest songs of all time. That's how much I love those songs. And some of these, Burning Up and Delivering the Goods, I would probably put in my top 5. So I just love this record. I love the fact that it's got the first of these atmospheric anthems in Take on the World. I think they did a much better job on this than they did on United or Heavy Metal, the follow-up one later. I like the two sort of slow ones that aren't too much in a hurry to please you, and that would be Killing Machine and Evil Fantasies. So I thought that was kind of brave what they did there. It's got a ballad, Before the Dawn, not too crazy about that. Love the Green Manalishi cover. To me, that's the hit you straight between the eyes that you get later with Metal Gods and Grinder. I love what they did with that. Of course, it doesn't sound anything like a Fleetwood Mac song. Evening Star, I could take or leave. But yeah, like I say, Rock Forever, Running Wild is just incredible. Delivering the Goods is such a good, meaty, heavy song with just massive power chords and a great, complicated riff. So that's the idea with this record. I think this is the last time they were kind of super complicated with the riffs. This has a vestiges of the 70s thing. Obviously, they were way more of a progressive metal band on Sad Wings, Sin After Sin, and Stained Class. But again, what I like is that they're mucking about in the real world on this one a little more. Just love that album cover. And I just remember it was almost like an occult talisman, the Killing Machine version of this when it came out. We just played it to death all the time. So yeah, it's the cusp record where it's to me, this is the record with the best of the past, with the best of the future. So there you go. always been my favorite. And again, I think it's a contrarian choice because I rarely hear it. I hear many different records for favorite choice, and that one is usually not one of them. Okay, so what are the sober choices for best Priest album? I would say it comes down to three, and those three would be Sad Wings of Destiny 76, Screaming for Vengeance 82, and British Steel 80. British Steel is the really commercial one. It's the first big album. It's the breakthrough album. It went platinum in the States. Screaming for Vengeance went double platinum. So in between, they had Point of Entry, which was considered a little bit poppy, a little bit wimpy. We were all kind of upset at it. I love it. But Screaming for Vengeance is them kind of coming back. It's got the really heavy Screaming for Vengeance song. It's got Electric Eye, Living After Midnight, or no, not Living, You've Got Another Thing Coming, huge hit. And this is when they, all the leather and the look is all kind of like nailed down, and they've got MTV videos, and everybody's happy, right? So that's one that I hear a lot because of the amazingness of that kickoff with Hellion and Electric Eye and Bloodstone and what's the other one called? Riding on the Wind, right? So those three in a row, I remember hearing those, and the intro Hellion. I remember hearing those, and I just thought that was one of the most amazing runs of Judas Priest songs ever. But I think it kind of goes downhill. After that, I don't like Devil's Child very much. I don't like You've Got Another Thing Coming. We had a band that was in our encore thing in the 80s, You Got Another Thing Coming. And Take These Chains. There's a lot of stuff on there. I get heck for saying this, but to me, it's a little hair metal-y, that album in total. Besides the amazing songs and the thrashy one, Screaming for Vengeance, it's a little not great, I think. Not crazy about the production, the Tom Allen sort of moving into the electro production sound on it. And of course, the drumming is kind of dull. So that's why I'm not a big fan, but it is the best-selling Priest album. It's the biggest they would ever get, so you often hear it as a favorite, and it was a heavy comeback after Point of Entry. Okay, British Steel is the other one you hear a lot, and British Steel went platinum. And obviously it's got Living After Midnight was a huge hit, but that was a song we thought, we were horrified when we heard that. That was an advanced single at the time. But I love Metal Gods and Grinder, but I'm not a big Steeler fan or a big Rapid Fire fan. The Rage is okay, but not great. Breaking the Law is okay, but not great, but it's a massive song. But these are the reasons. It is such an anthemic and important album. It's like that and Heaven and Hell are the old school, kicking off the new wave of British heavy metal and kind of being the grandpappies of that whole thing. So a lot of people have fond memories of the album, and so do I. Iconic album cover and the whole bit, right? So it's pretty cool, and it's like I say, quite commercial. It's just taking that next commercial step after Hellbent for Leather. And then the other one you always hear, of course, is Sad Wings, because it's such an important, classic, amazingly well-made album. To me, you can't fault Sad Wings. It literally is, like I say, the first real improvement in metal since 1970. So that's pretty amazing that you went all the way from 70 to 76 for that. Ripper, Victim of Changes, Tyrant, Dreamer, Deceiver, and just Island of Domination. Just really, really cool and classic and dark and amazing riffs and the kind of reintroduction of this amazing lead vocalist. To me, Rock and Roll is almost like the demo version of Sad Wings. So you do hear that one a lot. So if you're really an old school guy, you always go for Sad Wings. If you're kind of being like, what was a big game changer for the band themselves, British Steel, and what was their biggest album, Screaming for Vengeance. But I am always, to my dying day, it's Killing Machine and Hellbent for Leather, for the reasons I cited. Oddly, I had an old book out, the top 500 heavy metal albums of all time, and I believe this won at the time when I took the poll, the greatest Priest album. A lot of people love Painkiller. So if you're a younger Priest fan, this one comes out a lot pretty high, because it's pretty thrashy and well recorded and aggressive, and Rob Halford singing hysterically. But I find the lyrics very, very juvenile. It's I've never been into this "we are metaler than thou" kind of lyrics. So obviously they kind of did that in the old days, anyways. But by this point, it's really getting old and really getting primary colored, like that album cover, right? So yeah, this is one that actually comes up quite a bit in the polls as well, believe it or not. And it's really late, so it's 1990, and it went gold. It's pretty cool. So they had that go gold. They had Ram It Down go gold. You know, I'm surprised, but Sin After Sin and Stained Class are gold. I mean, for pretty heavy dark albums to have those go gold is pretty neat. This is a band with a lot of success. So yeah, just a couple more stats. Well, we've talked about the gold and platinum, but you know, Marco always does a good job of this, looking at the live set list to prove like what are the biggest albums, because these are the songs we play live the most. Surprisingly, two songs from my choice are quite high. Hellbent for Leather is the second most played Priest song, believe it or not. Green Man Alicia is really high at number 8, so that was crazy. Victim of Changes from Sad Wings is number 3. Ripper is number 12. So those songs are played a lot live. But British Steel really takes a lot here. You know, Breaking the Law is apparently the number 1 most played Judas Priest song. Living After Midnight, number 4. Metal Gods, number 5. So that's sort of, when you're in that range, it's like these are songs played at almost every show kind of thing, when, you know, after the albums came out. Grinder comes in number 17. When you move over to Screaming for Vengeance, You've Got Another Thing Coming is number 6. Electric Eye is number 7. A lot of people, Electric Eye is almost like their Hallowed Be Thy Name, which is one of these songs. You know, you could take that and maybe Victim of Changes as songs that come up really, really high as the greatest Priest songs. Devil's Child gets played a lot, number 21. So, you know, I mean, they spread it around, which is kind of cool. But yeah, there's a little more proof that the sober choice would be possibly a Screaming, a Sad Wings, or a British Steel, and not my choice, the Contrarian choice. So there you go. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks again for listening to the Contrarians. You will see solo shows also from Mark and Nick, and you'll see more of our dual shows as well. You'll see more of the worst album. We're started to do these feedback on feedback shows. So thank you, everybody. You know, the numbers have been steadily going up. It's been a long haul, but you know, we're starting to see some improvement in the numbers, just kind of cool. I love reading the comments. So you know, Marco and Nick are both also really good at replying to the comments as well. And I'm in there participating as well. So we'd love to see your comments. Let me know if I'm completely out to lunch with my Contrarian choice here, or if it's a pretty sober choice. Like I say, there's quite a lot of variety when it comes to Priest, which is cool. I think it's the good mark of you know, of a really good band with a lot of variety. So there you go. Signing off for the Contrarians, Martin Popoff. Go play some Priest.